Hey YouTube, welcome back to our channel. I'm Sadie.
I'm Rachel.
And today on our video we are going to be talking about patience and waiting. So if you are a girl, honestly if you're a guy, this is a big issue that a lot of us I think deal with and struggle with. And so if you want to hear about some of the things that we've dealt with when it comes to this topic, or if you just want to learn some scripture that goes along with this, stay tuned and let's get started.
Okay guys, so like Sadie said, we're going to be talking about patience and waiting some today. And so we have a couple of verses that go along with that. We like to put in some verses just to back up what we're saying always and kind of explain to you guys where we're getting what we're saying from. So the first verse we have is Romans 12:12, which says, "Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer." And I think it pretty much just lays it out there. Joyful in hope, patient in affliction or whatever's going wrong in our lives, and faithful in prayer through it all. Always coming back in prayer. And I think that's just a good basis for explaining patience and waiting. But then also another one, there's a ton of verses. These are just two we picked. Was Psalm 27:14, and it says, "Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart, and wait for the Lord."
Which sounds redundant, but honestly, if you see it in the Bible and it's in there twice, sometimes the Lord is just like, hey, this is so good, I gotta put it in there twice. So, wait for the Lord, and it says it again, wait for the Lord.
Yeah, and I think that pretty much just dives into exactly what we're talking about. Patience and waiting, right?
Yep. So, the first point we want to hit on is God wants good for us, but we need to trust in His timing. And it was probably a couple months back, but we did a video, honestly, on trusting in the Lord, and I talked about how that's my word of the year, which is sometimes such a silly thing to say, but it really is something that I struggle with, is waiting on God and trusting in His timing, because as a sinner and as a fallen person, I like to say, God, this is my life and I'm going to do my own thing. But then, you know, things don't go well, I'm a really bad planner, the Lord's like, alright girl, you don't know what you're talking about, and I look back and I say, I really need to trust His timing. And that sounds kind of like, okay, what does that mean, trust in His timing? But it truly means going back to these verses and waiting on God. And it just means saying, I'm going to be faithful every single day. I'm going to read your word. I'm going to communicate with you with an open heart, with an open mind. And I'm just going to wait to hear from you for what you have to say about my life. So,
yeah, exactly. And to kind of play off something Sadie said there, when she was talking about wanting, one of the things that I found important to remember is just because I don't get what I want when I want it doesn't mean that things aren't good. And that's something that lately I've really had to be faithful in trusting God about and learning, because I've had a lot of experiences lately where there have been things I wanted that I just have not gotten. No matter how hard I try, no matter what I do, it's just not in God's will. Or maybe it is in the future, but am I being patient and waiting for it? Not always, to be honest. And that's something God's been teaching me, is I might have that thing in my future. It might be His will, but it's not in this time. And so just because I don't get that right now, when I want it, how I want it, that's not how this works. I don't get to just throw out demands and God gives them to me. And so that is really important to remember, is the things we want aren't always what's best for us. And God knows what's best for us in the end. So sometimes us not getting what we want or not getting it in our timing is actually God being merciful towards us, for sure.
Yeah, because again, we can only see with our naked eye. Like, we don't have the ability to see and know everything that's going to happen, you know, a week from now, 3 years from now. And so sometimes the Lord is just shielding us and protecting us from bad things, or not even bad things, but maybe we're just not mature enough or ready for the thing that we want. So then the next thing is, sometimes God doesn't tell us yes or no. Sometimes He's saying wait. And pretty much Rachel just talked about that. But the Lord is literally our Father, and so, okay, you've probably heard this analogy, but maybe you haven't, but sometimes, you know, with a little kid, they want that one cookie before dinner, But the dad's like, well, if you just eat your dinner, like, we'll have, like, a cookie sundae. You know, like, you get the bigger thing in the end rather than just one cookie. And so, pretty much that's how it is with God. He's like, well, I could give it to you now, but you're just going to get one cookie. But if you wait and eat dinner, even though you might not like what we're having, you're going to get something so much greater on the other side of it. And so, I know we've talked about this already throughout the video, but that was just kind of the analogy that goes along with it. And honestly, that's so helpful, and it puts it into perspective for me every single time I hear someone say something like that. So
yeah, I think that's great, and I love that analogy. I think that's a great one, and it's something to remember because sometimes it doesn't make sense to us, and we just gotta wait for that cookie sundae. And so I think a good wrap up of all of this is the last point, which is it comes back to control, which this is something I feel like I am always talking about, but I have control issues, okay? Right. What can I say? And so the thing is, I have been learning, and I think in general, when we try to take control of something and make things happen, instead of giving them up to God for His timing and His leading, I make a mess. You make a mess. We make a mess. And that's what happens when we try to take that control from God. And I am like a go-getter, doer.
Oh, yeah.
So I am so guilty of this that I always try to take control. Even sometimes without realizing that's what I'm doing. If I want something, I'm going to go out and take every step I can to make it happen. And the sad thing is sometimes I might be directly fighting God's will in doing that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not taking it to God and saying, what do you want? What is your timing for this? I'm just saying, oh, this sounds good, so it must be good, so I'm going to do it.
No, honestly, like, I think the first time in my life where I saw that I did this, I was applying to college, and if you remember that process, it's stressful, and you're a little 17 or 18-year-old girl sitting there going, what's happening? But I wanted to get into Liberty University so badly, and I kept getting deferred because my SAT scores weren't high enough. And so I just thought, well, I got deferred twice, and so I'm just going to go to another university. And so I applied there, and I paid the acceptance, or what's the fee called? You know, the entrance fee.
Yeah.
And I paid for my rooming, you know. I just paid for a lot of stuff. I put like $1,000 down of my own money, and literally a couple weeks later, the Lord sent my acceptance letter in the mail, and I was like, oh my gosh, I just wasted all that time, money, and honestly stress, and it caused myself so much heartache. And so, like Rachel said, I made a mess. And it's like, I could have just waited the extra 3 weeks, and the Lord would have provided, but I chose not to, and so that was just a lesson learned in my own life.
And I think there's so many lessons like that I've learned, and have I really learned the lesson? Because I keep doing it. But I think it's just an important thing to keep reminding myself, even though it seems to be something I continually struggle with, and maybe you're the same way, is that I cannot take control. I need to be patient, need to wait on God, because His timing is perfect. Even if it's not my timing, even if I'm like, God, what are you doing? Because that doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? God's timing. He knows what He's doing. I need to trust that and be patient and wait. Even when it doesn't make sense, even when I think it'd be easier for me to just take the reins. And so I just think that's a good wrap up to remind us.
Yeah.
Be patient. Wait on God, because He has good for us.
He really does. Yeah. He has that big sundae waiting at the end. So, we hope that you guys liked this video, and we hope it gave you some helpful tips. We hope the scriptures help, and yeah, we just hope you guys enjoyed it in total. So if you guys want to like and subscribe, we would absolutely love that. And stay tuned for our next video. See you guys.
Bye.